in a different manner this night.
Good morning. On behalf of Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead, the City Commission, Manager Canton, and staff, welcome to the business meeting of the City Commission of the City of Truth and Consequences. It is now 9:03 on November 14th. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Honorable Steve Green.
Here.
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Here.
Honorable Kathy Clark.
Here.
Honorable Ralph Hashler.
Here.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is silent meditation, and before we go into that agenda item, I would ask you to keep the people of California who have had some horrific losses of life and property in your thoughts. It just shows you how vulnerable, and at any one given time, life just changes instantly. Thank you. The next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead, could you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda. What I'd like to do on the agenda, because we have some time constraints today with one of our commissioners and some other folks, I would like to take number I, discussion action, Tri-State Electric, and put that after consent calendar. And then take number H3, which is the request for a plat amendment, and make that H1, and then just move everything down one. If that is okay with my fellow commissioners, I will stand for that motion.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion. I need a second. Second. Motion was Commissioner Heschler, second by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Yes.
So new business was the Sierra County Electric Co-op. We're putting that up there, and then the resolution with the Joint Powers Agreement to Sierra Vista Hospital, is that staying at H2?
Yes,
Okay.
unless you would like that moved.
I'm wondering if we can put them both up above the public hearings.
Okay. So would someone please amend the motion, and the motion would then be to have consent calendar, after consent calendar, number I, new business, Tri-State, and then H2 would be next, and then we would take H3 and basically make that H1.
Well, you'd have H1 and H3, so it'd be 1 and 2.
But you wanted the,
I'm asking to pull H2 and I1 just after the consent calendar.
yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what I said. Yeah, it's going to be I, H, and H2.
Thank you.
And then what we are going to do is we're going to take the request for plat amendment, because Tracy Burnett has some other things that she has to go to, and put that as H1, and then everything drops down. That's okay with you. So I'll stand for amended motion to the motion. So moved. Excellent. Okay, so moved, and all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Sorry for a little bit of confusion, but we'll get through it. The next item is comments from the public. 3-minute rule applies. Please state your name. If you have anything that you want as part of the official record of this meeting, please put it into the black box, which is not there. Do we know where the black box is?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just have a couple things. Number one, I'm speaking for quite a few of the residents in TRC that's come before you about over issues for the golf course and different things. like the streets being full of potholes and all kinds of other different things. But the majority of those people, we are endorsing Paul Tooley for city manager. We think that he has done a tremendous job in the fire hall and organization. Has made one of the best fire departments in the whole nation. There's very few voluntary fire departments that have the qualifications that our fire department has. He's a very sharp individual. He catches on quick. He's fast at catching on to what needs to be done. I think also not only do you need to hire a city manager, but you need a good assistant city manager, someone that knows also how to go for grants and work with the city manager and the other employees, because the city manager, with the way things are, has got his hands totally full. And I was a little bit dismayed on, I think the money's short, $125,000 probably isn't enough money for a city manager. I mean, that's quite a bit of money for Paul Tooley. But here's the biggest factor of all. He's born and raised here, and he cares. That is extremely important. We don't need somebody that doesn't care. He loves the city. He will do a hell of a job. The other thing is, Virgin Galactic is fixing to go. Flights probably this next year. The visitor center up on my property is still available. It's all designed, all the dirt work. It could go to bid tomorrow morning. The visitor center downtown has not attracted any people. Are we going to lose it to Hatch, Upham, or Las Cruces? There's going to be a visitor center, and it's going to be in one of 4 places: TRC, Upham, Hatch, or Las Cruces. We can keep doodling around and freeze ourselves out, or we can get on the stick and the city commission get behind getting the visitor center here, which is also can be used for a lot of other tours, like cave tours, Turner's tours. There can be all kinds of tours. As I've said before, this little city has more potential than any other little city I've ever seen, and I've gone all over this country. The city commission needs to get behind the Spaceport Visitor Center and forget about me selling the property and making some money. That's nice for me, but it needs to be there. It needs to be very visible. 25 to 50,000 people go down I-25 every day. It's iconic the way it's designed. Now let's get with the program, and let's get us a good city manager, and let's get us some tourism back in. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Thank you. Mr. Fenn.
Don't run away, Mr. Ashbaugh. Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Fenn, Truth or Consequences. Speaking of the Spaceport Visitor Center, 11 months, 346 visitors. Not Mr. Green's 20,000 visitors, not Spaceport America's 200,000 visitors. 346 visitors in 11 months, which has earned the Spaceport $1,010.92. Then the Spaceport has taken public money and given it to the city to the tune of $3,300, supposedly for utilities, which the city fraudulently records as rent of public facilities. Fraudulently. The contract says there is 0 rent and only $300 contribution towards utilities. What happens is that money does not go into the utility fund to help repair our utilities, but goes directly into the general fund for whatever nonsense the city spends it on. In the meantime, the citizens have lost weeks, actually probably more than a month of recreation due to the city's renting out at 0 rent the Civic Center. What is wrong with this picture? The poorest community in New Mexico is giving itself away for free because we have no self-respect. This community is a joke. You people are supposedly in charge, and yet you treat this city as though It's just, we'll give anybody anything if just come here and spend your money, because we get 2 cents for every dollar that you spend. 2 cents. The money that we've given away on the recreation center, on our senior recreation center, $20,000, will require $1 million in taxable spending by the people who come here for Spaceport America. That amounts to almost $3,000 per person for that 3,800, or for the 346 people. Do you honestly believe that we are getting any kind of return for this ludicrous spaceport business? It's not there. Wake up before we are dead broke and out of business.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. Anyone else like to address the commission? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and Honorable Commissioners, City Manager. I'm Les Dufour with the Golf Advisory Board, and unfortunately I had another member due to medical reasons have to resign. And I have an application from Kay Thompson, who owns When Pigs Fly, and she's shown an interest, and I'm very excited, and hopefully the board or the commissioners will approve her to the board. She has a business background that we haven't had in quite a while, and I think it's time that we try to get a little more business oriented with the golf course, and so I'm hoping that her addition will help us provide some valuable input to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Next item is item D, response to public comments. Does anyone have any response?
Yes.
Manager
Mr. Mayor,
Cathy.
Commissioners, thank you. Mr. Dufour, we appreciate you letting us know, and we will definitely follow the process and advertise for that position for the Golf Advisory Board, and bring it back to a future meeting to get that filled for you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? I have a comment to Mr. Ashba. I think he said something to the effect of, born and raised here, he cares. I'm quite sure Mr. Cooley cares, but I reject the fact that you have to be born and raised here to care. I think it's a slap in the face to all those people who have chosen, not been forced to, but chose to move to our community, chose to move to Truth or Consequences, chose to stay in Truth or Consequences. Because you were born here does not make your personage any more valuable or less valuable than those who made a decision on our own. It wasn't our parents' decision, and you have bragging rights because you were born here. You had nothing to do with that decision. It was your mom and dad's decision. So I don't think that you have to be born here to be able to fall in love with this community and give it your all and try to make it better. That's all I have to say. Thank you. The next item is presentations. Number 1, presentation of a proclamation for Small Business Saturday on November 24th, 2018. And it gives me pleasure to be able to read this. And it reads as follows: Proclamation, City of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Whereas the City of Truth or Consequences celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 27.9 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of American employer firms, create more than 2/3 of the net new jobs, and generate 46% of private gross domestic product, as well as 54% of all U.S. sales. And whereas small businesses employ over 55% of the working population in the United States, and whereas 89% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses contribute positively to the local community by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue, and whereas 87% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of the United States, and whereas 93% of customers in the United States agree that it is important for people to support the small businesses that they value in their community, and whereas the City of Truth and Consequences supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, and whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, and whereas the Chamber of Commerce of the City of Truth and Consequences in Sierra County and Main Street Truth and Consequences are working together to promote Small Business Saturday in Truth and Consequences in Sierra County. Now, therefore, I, Steve Green, Mayor of Truth and Consequences, do hereby proclaim November 24th, 2018 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a presentation from Palms and Associates on services for the city. And if you'd introduce yourself, sir, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Green, Commission. My name is Carlos Torres. I am with Palms and Associates. I am the Vice President of Property and Casualty. Just to let you know, I do have another team member that is going to be joining us here shortly. He's actually making his way up from Las Cruces. The objective of me coming here to talk with you folks today is one in which I'd like to define our role, responsibilities, and services that we are going to be rolling out or providing to the City of Truth or Consequences. If you've heard of Palms and Associates, it's probably because of the background that we have in working with our schools throughout the state of New Mexico. We provide insurance and risk management to every single school throughout the state of New Mexico, K through 12, including some of the charter schools, or majority of the charter schools, and some of the colleges. So our footprint is the entire state of New Mexico. And you know, the big portion of what we do is risk management. It's really one of the main reasons why we felt back in 2016 that we should start talking to municipalities, quasi-governmental agencies, because we feel like we fit hand in glove with your guys' exposure. So, you know, in 2016, Mayor Green, we had actually met with, at the time, the city manager. At the time, it was very, very new, a new introduction that we were making to municipalities. Over the course of the last 2 years, we have found out that there is an ability for Palms and Associates to work as a broker with municipalities, and there's absolutely no cost to the municipality in doing so. What has taken place is that over the past 25, 30 years, the existence of the Self-Insurers Fund, they collect a commission for a broker fee. The broker fee for you folks specifically here in the City of Truth or Consequences is somewhere around $30,000. As we kind of progressed in, as we progressed in making some headway with the Self-Insurers Fund, they indicated to us at the time that yes, there is a broker fee. The commission dollars that are paid are 2 to 4% on work comp, 7% on general liability, and 10% on any property. It was done this way back when the self-insurers fund started because at the time, early 80s, there was a lot of lawsuits that were brought against municipalities at the time. All carriers at the time decided to get out of the business of writing public entities. So that's where the pools ended up starting to become very relevant in the insurance industry. It's actually the time frame when we at Palms and Associates put together the NMCIA, which is the New Mexico Public School Insurance Authority. So we put that together, we built it, and at the same time, the Association of Counties was put together, and also the Self-Insurers Fund. So there was brokers that worked with municipalities at that point in time. So they decided, okay, we'll give them a commission fee on their structure. Over the course of the last year, 2 years that we've been in communications with our municipalities and the City of Truth or Consequences itself, we identified, through the help of some of your administration, that there was, in fact, a broker that was receiving those dollars. At the same time, there was no services that were being offered or given to the City of Truth or Consequences. So what we've done in the short period of time that we have been working with you here in the last 5 months, we've actually started a supervisory training series, which is the first training was legal landmines. The second one was effective documentation, and the next one that's going to be offered is the leadership challenge. That is, of course, in conjunction. That's very specific to HR. I'm going to roll things over to Larry here shortly, and he'll talk a little bit more about the risk service component to what we do at Palms and Associates. This all really started back in early 16 when I met with the City of Roswell. They told us that they had a broker, and it kind of opened up our eyes to the fact that we could be a good fit for the cities. So, you know, what role do we play? I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the Self-Insurers Fund. They also work with a third party who provides training to the municipalities of New Mexico. We have felt that it has been somewhat of an unintended consequence that the trainings that are offered, I mean, each employee has to have 8 to 16 hours of training throughout the course of a fiscal year. If you as a municipality meet those requirements, you receive a dividends. The dividends to the City of Truth or Consequences is somewhere around $34,000. Very important that you guys keep that training in place. But one of the unintended consequences of this training program, we feel, is that you have folks that are in public works that are taking courses like such as what would be a good example was kitchen safety. There you go. And they're not pertinent to what their job descriptions are. You know, on the flip side, you'll have admin taking, you know, protective PPE type of training just to check the box and say that you got the training. It's very important to us as a third party working with you folks that we provide very targeted training for the job description of the employees that are out there working every day. So, you know, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of kick things over to Larry. Larry's going to talk a little bit more about our safety program. Larry is our senior risk service manager at Palms.
Thank you, Carlos, and good morning. I apologize for my tardiness this morning. Just walking into every building but this one. As Carlos mentioned, training is a big part of what we do at Palms and Associates. I'm the senior risk manager on the loss prevention program, so I supervise a group of employees that provides employee safety training in addition to the human resource training that Carlos mentioned. We also have an ergonomist who provides ergonomics training. We have a security consultant who provides security training, so he does active shooter training, lockdown, fortification. workplace violence, very relevant topics, especially in light of what's going on around the country right now. You just saw in Albuquerque a couple of days ago a situation involving workplace violence and how that can hit home and how that can impact your workplace. So we have that as a component of the training programs that we offer. Really the big push or the big focus that we have at Palms and Associates is making sure that the training is relevant to your employees. So we're very analytic, very data driven. We take a look at where your claims are. We take a look at where you've had history of problems. If it's a situation occurring where we have people getting hurt because they're lifting improperly, we focus the training on the behavior, trying to change the behavior rather than just checking a box to say we did the training, we got the credit for providing the training to the employees. Focus training on what can affect behavior, which will then have a positive result on your claims. And that's really where our focus is. How can we minimize employee injury? Employee injuries cause a lot of problems in the workplace, not just the pain and suffering to the employee, but you have absenteeism that results from it. You have employees that have to be hired to take the person's position, or a temporary employee that may have to pick up the slack for the injured employee. It also has a negative impact on team morale if you've got people that are out because of injury. So we really focus on data and analytics so that we focus our training where you absolutely need it rather than just checking the box. When we do the training, we have a senior manager. She's our regional director named Julie Garcia. She's developed an adult theory-based training program for all of our trainers. So rather than just going through a PowerPoint, showing a video, checking the box on the PowerPoint, we're actually using the adult theory of learning, which is changing behavior. Adults learn differently than children, for example, in that we don't listen to lecture very well. I've probably lost most of you in the first 90 seconds of what I started saying. We don't listen very well in sitting and being lectured to. We're more hands-on. And so that's really where our training focuses on. How can we change behavior? What can we do to present in a format that the employee will really take the information and learn and change their behavior so that they prevent claims from happening in the future? That's really what we try to focus on in the training programs that we offer. So when you come to one of our trainings, you won't see a lot of PowerPoint. You're not going to see us reading a bunch of words off of a screen to people. We're focused on behavior. How can we change behavior to get a positive result and to be able to measure that behavior change, or be able to measure the learning from the adult that's being taught. So that being said, the trainings that we offer are very extensive in OSHA. We're all OSHA authorized instructors. We also offer first aid training. We're first aid certified through the National Safety Council as well as Red Cross. We do defensive driving through the National Safety Council. So most of the same training programs that are already offered to you from safety counseling, we can offer the same types of services at Palms and Associates, but what we try to focus on is the data and where you absolutely need the help, where you need the employees to be driven in order to prevent claims from happening. What we're looking for, and I don't know if you've mentioned this already, Carlos, is trying to obtain some sort of assistance in how can you've got this mandatory requirement in order to get your credits and your dividends that Carlos talked about. How can we get more participation from your employees in the data or in the claims areas that you know that you need attention in? And I don't know if you want to mention that, Carlos. You want me to go ahead and?
Go ahead. I mean, yeah. Well, I'll jump in real quick. Our main goal and objective of coming to meet with you is getting your support in making some of these courses mandatory for some of the employees. We're not talking everybody, but what we are talking about is very specific groups of individuals that work with you guys, especially on the supervisory side. I think that, our travels have taken us to many municipalities. As I said earlier, I think we're working with 20 municipalities at this point. Over the course of the last 2 years, that's grown from 0 to 20. So the support that we're asking from you folks is that, of course, when it comes to the trainings, if it's within the job description, we would like for you to give the authority to somebody, maybe your safety and security, whoever works on that. I think it's Ms. Sweeney right now, but give her the authority to possibly make it a mandatory training for specific people based on whatever training they need on their job description. That is really I think one of the main objectives, because we don't want to go through this whole process and just check the box, and the training has to be very specific. I mean, and I think that's really where we hang our hat on at Palms and Associates, is the fact that if it's not pertinent, then we're not providing the training. It has to be pertinent for your operations. Is that, yeah. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Questions, concerns? Commissioner Heschler?
Sure.
Start us off.
Good morning, gentlemen. So, explain briefly, what is the net savings to the city? How are we going to save money in this regard? Just so that we can all be educated in that matter. Is it an aggressive safety training program? Is our payments less to the state if we're successful? Or where do we get our money? Where do we get payment back?
Sure. You want to touch on that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, so in terms of, where you're at right now, what you're currently doing, you would be in no worse position than what you're currently doing, in the sense that you'd be obtaining the credits that are available to you from the municipal league. The difference, though, in driving your training programs to specific areas where you have concern is you would save money in the long run in terms of the employee safety and having employees more productive, having employees, not having to pay employees that are out on work comp. You're paying the premium, plus you've got the payment going to the employee from the work comp carrier, and now you've got another employee that's doing their job. So that's really where your savings are going to be, and it's very tough to try to put your hands around that, because it's like trying to prove a negative. If a successful training program comes in and changes behavior and you have less claims, it's hard to measure what that means, because you're not paying out the claims. I mean, that's really where your positive effect is. You're not paying out those claims. Does that result in lower premiums to the municipal league? I'll have to let Carlos address that, whether or not it affects your premiums. But in terms of production and value, that's really what we can offer you, is offering that assistance and making sure that the worker stays on the job. And I don't know how it affects premiums.
So Larry touched on work comp and a modifier. One of the things, your modifier is always going to affect your bottom line. So if you have frequency, severity is probably right around the corner. And based on your work comp specifically, if you're above a 1 is par. If you're above a 1, you're going to be paying a little bit more. If you're below a 1, you're going to be receiving a credit. The one benefit of working with and writing all of your insurances with the New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund is that you are kind of spreading out your risk over the course of, with 106 other members throughout the state. So you're spreading out your risk in pretty much everything outside of the work comp. The work comp does drive your bottom line cost. So, and I know we got to look at some of the losses that have taken place on your work comp. There's always work that can be done. We want to drive that thing as low as we possibly can. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, to some degree. So what I'm hearing, and do you know where we rate now? Are we below a 1? Are we above a 1? Or
You're a little bit above a 1 right now.
Okay, so there is some room for improvement.
Absolutely. There's always room for improvement when it comes to work comp related.
And have you actually looked at our statistics? I've done a little research in the past of where our injuries came from, our number of accidents, workplace injuries, things like that. Have you looked at those statistics?
We've touched on them. We did receive them, I think, about a month ago. One of the things that again, we're trying to get the support is that we want to sit with you folks and your administration, whoever it might be, and really outline a plan for the next year as far as what we're going to target based off of the losses that are taking place. If they're auto accidents, we want to do defensive driver training. If they're work comp related, lifting type things, then we want to provide some other type of training. So it kind of just depends on what the training is. We have had an opportunity to look at them. We will make our suggestions to whomever those individuals might be, but then of course we need to make sure that those employees get to those specific trainings that we have identified the need for.
As a former state employee, I am very familiar with the program. Also very familiar with the concept of having an aggressive safety officer that actually gets out and does things, and not to say that ours doesn't, but an aggressive safety officer involved in the municipality or with the state can really make a difference. And it makes a difference in the type of premiums that we pay, how much of the premiums we pay, and we have to have our employee buy-in. I think that's very important. And so I look forward to seeing how this all shapes up, and we'll be interested in the process.
Sure, we appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
might. If I could have you guys or even Melissa kind of explain how the program's paid for through the broker, that you would be a broker through New Mexico Self-Insurers, that
Sure.
you already allocate money to and pay for, correct?
Yeah, so the broker fee is already built into the premiums that you're currently paying. And I know your administration did do their due diligence prior to making the decision to move to or work with us at Palms and Associates. Did you want to touch on that, or do you want me to kind of proceed? Okay.
Sure, you can jump in, Sam.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, good morning. Just to touch on that of what Mr. Trio was saying, is that a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, in 2016, 17, our staff attended a municipality where Palms Associated was invited. And at that time, we discovered about that we were, as municipalities, were paying this broker fee, which is about $25,000 estimated. And we had been paying it for years. So when we looked into it, we called New Mexico Self-Insurers, and we found out Grindle and Romero was our brokers. So we picked up the phone and we called Grindle and Romero and we said, hi, you know, we're City of Truth or Consequences. We're understanding that you guys are our brokers. At that time, they didn't even know who we were. So just to let you know that for years upon years that we were paying this broker fee, which is an automatic must that is part of our payment, to a broker that didn't even know who we were. As a municipality, one of the things that really brighten our eyes in administration is here we have an additional resource. We have an additional resource for risk management. We have additional resource for human resources. And so that is just an awesome thing for us as in administration. So we're able to have that additional resource that most municipalities don't have. We do have the self-insurers and the safety program. However, they are so stretched out at times that, you know, they can't customize certain things. And that's one thing that I have to say that I appreciate with Renee and the administrative staff is Palms and Associated has come and visit us probably a handful of times, and more that we're planning to visit, and have sit down with us and said, okay, what are your guys' problems? What are your guys' needs? What are your guys' liabilities? And we're able to customize these trainings just for our municipalities to be able to be proactive and try to get ahead of this stuff. So I hope that covers a little bit more of the overall view of how we're paying for it. So no matter what, it is already custom in our New Mexico self-insurers. So if we don't pay Palms and Associates, we are still having to pay a broker fee, period.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And Mayor, Commissioners, just to add to that, as you mentioned, you know, the last couple that we did have, Williamsburg and Elephant Butte also joined in, so we've kind of collaborated all together, which is a great benefit for.
And if I may just add, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, what you were saying is exactly the reason why Palms and Associates was formed and founded. The owner of our company, David Palms, is a large insurance broker. He's been in the insurance industry for many, many years. He worked for a very large broker. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, he decided to leave the model, the traditional model of insurance, which was just what you just described. Many clients, you have policies on the shelf in a booklet, they send you the policies, that's the only time you ever hear from the broker, when they're coming by to pick up the commission checks or when they're coming by to pick up the premium payments from you, delivering the policies. What he wanted to do was found a company that was based on customer service. And so the value added, everything that I talked about in terms of training is one part of it. We also offer consultation, we do inspections, we come out and do loss control visits with our clients. All of that is a model that David formed when he formed the company as a value-added service to his clients, so that at the end of the year, when you look back at working with Palms and Associates, you know that you paid a commission, and you know out of that commission, you received a value for it. The broker actually had to work for it and earn that commission, and that's what we do, and that's why David invested in a loss prevention program. We're very unique in the insurance industry. There are just a handful of insurance brokerages like us in the country. Not a lot of insurance brokers invest in a loss prevention program. If they have loss prevention, it's usually coming from the insurance carrier. And when they take that information, when the insurance carrier comes out to review your claims with you, or when they come out to look at your facilities, they're taking that information back and it's going to the underwriters. The underwriters then are using that to base your premium decisions on. When we come out and do those assessments for you, it goes to you, the client, so that you can make the changes behaviorally or facility-wise to make sure that you're not having claims, so that you're not going to pay a higher premium at the end of the day. So that's really where our company was founded on, that kind of story that you just told.
Thank you for that. Any other further questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Just a final comment I would say is that our city manager has the authority to make these meetings mandatory for our staff. And she should convey that authority to our safety officer, so that our safety officer has the responsibility, but also the authority to call these people to these classes and make sure that it's a mandatory meeting. Presently, sometimes we have this tendency to, I'm too busy to go to these safety meetings, and I would say we're never too busy to go to these safety meetings, especially if they make a difference in the bottom line for the city. It makes our workers safe, and so I think we should have that in mind when we use this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your explanation.
Thank you, guys.
The next item is the consent calendar, which first of all, is there any of the items on the consent calendar that any commissioner would like pulled off separate? Seeing none, then I need a motion for the consent calendar, which consists of the City Commission regular minutes of August 22nd, 2018, City Commission regular minutes of September 12th, 2018, City Commission regular minutes of September 26th, 2018, accounts payable October 2018, first quarter reports for largest tax grant recipients. The next item on the consent calendar is the first quarter reports for subrecipient grants. And the last item is appointment of Lori Montgomery to the Sierra Vista Hospital Governing Board to represent the city of T.R.C. on that board. Stand for motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as noted.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead, a second by
Second,
Commissioner Heschler. Further discussion?
I have one comment, Mayor.
Commissioner Clark.
I would like to thank our city manager, Renee Canton, for stepping in to be on the Sierra Vista Governing Board until we found another person to sit in that place.
Thank you very much. And following up on that, I'd like to thank Lori Montgomery, who, if you take a look at her little small resume, I believe is eminently qualified to be one of the three people that represent our interests at the hospital. So, Ms. Montgomery, thank you very much. Just a comment on the accounts payable. I noticed that we're getting not that far into the year, and we're getting pretty high up on our legal fees. We are getting pretty high up there on our contract services for an outside CPA. And also, I would like to just bring to the manager's attention that once the contract for the IT services is over, I think that we should look to have not a company in Albuquerque to come down here to help us fix our computers and do what they do, but see if we can get someone local, and possibly that person might have some website knowledge and could help staff the city clerk's office with keeping our website current and up to date, taking pictures of events and making that thing really pop, which it doesn't do right now. So just some thoughts on that. Motion to approve, second, comment. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Thank you, it carries unanimously. The next item is number I, discussion action, Tri-State Sierra Electric Co-op new rate schedule. Renee Canton, interim city manager, and Bo Easley, electric division director, are going to be our presentation. I would also like to ask that Commissioner Clark jump in on this since she's been involved in this almost from the get-go with this on the meetings with Tri-State and Tri-State Transmission Lines and Sierra Electric Co-op.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Would you please ask Ms. Denise Barrera to come up also with Bo
Okay.
Easley?
All
And
right.
could we also call in Steve House, who's
Okay?
our advisor to the electric department, and our legal, if you need to step in on this one, please. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.